auto pack. Maybe you have it under your parents, right? You just have your insurance under your parents. You might not even pay, or you pay them some. I don't know what the agreement is. So this will cover the basics that you may or may not be aware of. And we'll get started. Hopefully 15 minutes or less. There you go. Highlighter, if you have one, this is the unit to use it, because there's no math. It's all just like, do you understand how insurance works? I'm fairly confident that you can get the gist of it. All right, so I'll read and highlight on page 47. That is, if you live in Manitoba and you own a vehicle, you need vehicle insurance. No surprises there. Manitoba Public Insurance Corporation, MPIC, right, provides basic automobile insurance for all Manitobans. It's not just automobile, trailers, ATVs, snowmobiles, anything like that, they cover that as well. This program is called AutoPack, right? It's a not-for-profit corporation. So that is important, that they're not in it for making money. They break even. What happens if they make too much money? It just happened recently. You may have heard of it. You got some checks in the mail, right? You ask your parents or ask people that have a car insurance, they got a couple $100 back. Nicola? Yeah? So it was a nice surprise. Like for me, it's like, oh, nice, right? A couple $100 back. I don't mind that. So what happens is they have this reserve. They have a cash reserve in case there are accidents. They need to be paying out a lot of money. So if they don't use it, they have to pay it back to you. So they're not overcharging. They have a forecast. They're like, okay, based on what we've done in the past, we expect this many accidents. And then obviously COVID came. A lot of us parked the car, fewer accidents. So then they pay it back, right? So that's how it goes. So instead of reducing your premium, they just charge what they think, and then they pay it back if they don't use it. Lucas, you had a question earlier? I forgot. Okay, if you remember, ask me again later. Anyways, AutoPack will compensate you if your vehicle gets damaged or if you get injured. You know, a lot of times there's a crash and it's like nobody died, which is great. But you know what? Sometimes you get an injury and you can for life deal with that injury. And AutoPack covers that. Like my wife was driving back from seeing our pediatrician with our under a year old, right? We had a newborn, and my wife actually crashes into a big truck, right? Long story, but she had her neck got kind of injured on that, so she went to a chiropractor, physiotherapist for like 2 years plus, all covered by AutoPack. And so injuries are very expensive, and they're also, right, you can suffer the consequences for a long time. It will also compensate others. If you cause somebody else an injury, they will compensate that as well. In provinces such as Alberta, they have some private insurance companies, so there's a bit of competition there. It's good. I think it's good. It brings down the prices for insurance, but in Manitoba, you don't have a choice. It's all auto-packed. Insuring your vehicle, so have your highlighter ready to go here. There are three components to a basic auto-pack protection. There's the basic all perils coverage. There's a personal injury protection plan, and there's basic third-party liability. If you insure anything in Manitoba, these three things are a must. You don't have a choice. And you can probably, basic all perils means like any physical damage is covered by this. Any actual bodily harm done to anyone is covered by this. Third party, what's third party liability? Third party liability is such things as, let's say you're for some reason you drive into a train. Don't do it, right? But let's say you lose control, you can't come to a stop, You crash into a train, the train derails, and all the products, everything that it was carrying is all gone, right? It's all damaged. That could be millions of dollars, depending on what's in it, right? The cleanup, injuries that may have resulted, that's a third-party liability, right? So not only did you get hurt or your car get damaged, the train got damaged, but there's third party, right? Like products of people that shipped it. So third party liability covers that as well. That is what third party liability, and you have some choices as to how much coverage there is, but there's a basic amount for all three of them. So the basic all perils, right, covers Manitobans against accidental loss or damage to vehicle, right? So against loss or damage to the vehicle itself. The personal injury protection plan, it's right, costs that are sustained from injuries or death. It does not matter who is at fault or whether the accident occurred in Canada or the United States. So that's kind of nice to know. Then there's basic third-party liability. Provides Manitobans with up to, right? Provides Manitobans for up to $10 million. You choose that coverage, by the way, for claims made against them. So it could be that a business might actually sue you after the accident for damages that occurred to their building. I used to work at 7-Eleven a long time ago, and a car actually crashed into the store. Right, smashed the front window. I wasn't working at the time, but yeah, so a lot of damage there. It could have even injured people that were inside, right? These claims can be done for their vehicle caused by someone else's vehicle or injuries to another individual, right? Important to note that the minimum coverage is not, can you change this please? Minimum coverage nowadays is 500,000. You don't need to know that actually. You don't need to memorize it, but I think it's good to know that the minimum, the starting is 500,000 third-party liability. I would say this, listen carefully. Always go for like 2 million. I would say 2 or 5 million. It's not much more. Like if you can actually go online and check it out, change these values, and you're covered for like potentially you making a big mistake, right? If you're only covered for 500,000, that is gone, and then you're responsible for whatever else is there, right? So you don't want that. So choose the higher the amount of coverage you choose, the more your insurance will be, but it's not that much more. So I would suggest go 5 million, 2 or 5, just in case. But, next page. I'm going to add a few things, so pay attention. In addition to basic auto pack coverage, there's also optional. There's some options that you have. So what you can do is you can increase the third-party liability. You can reduce your deductible. We'll talk about deductible in a bit. You can choose, you can opt for loss of use coverage. And loss of use is if you get into an accident and it's your fault, you get a rental, right? You can go to a rental company. Autopack has a bit of a limit. You can't spend. Don't go get the most expensive car. You're not going to get all of that paid. But just a basic car, you can rent it, and that's going to cover it. So you can opt for that coverage at the moment when you're insuring your car. Watch this. This is very important. The deductible is the amount you're responsible for paying for any Autopack claim you make for damage or theft. I would say this. Can you put this down? It has to be an at fault claim. So if you make a claim and you're at fault, you have to pay what we call your deductible. An auto-pack claim is completed when you get into an accident. I'm not going to get into that. You deal with auto-pack when that happens. They will tell you all about it, right? If you get into a crash, oh, maybe I should say this. You should, as soon as you get into a crash, pull over, and if it's another vehicle involved, make sure you share information, right? Get the license plate, get the name, right? Phone number, what make, color, all of that. And if there's a witness, make sure you get that witness's phone number. Because I've had people, like, someone got rear-ended, it's obviously that person's fault, right? If you rear end someone, it's your fault. It doesn't matter if the person in front of you slammed the brakes, it doesn't matter. They'll say you were supposed to keep your distance. But they might say, yeah, it was my fault. And then they go and report it and they claim innocence, right? They say, like, actually, I got cut off by that person and that's how it happened. And you could be, they could say, well, it's 50-50. They actually say you're 50% at fault and the other person is 50% at fault. But you know what? You still have to pay the deductible and it's going to go on your record. So if you want to drive for a company and they see that you have a record, it might actually damage you. So if there's a witness, get that phone number right away. If you ever see an accident, pull over and just tell the person, like, I've seen what happened. Here's my number, it's my name, right? So you can help them out with that. Anyways, paying for autopack. Autopack obviously is not free, but you have these are some, your autopack rate depends on the following factors. There are more than just these four, and I will add them. Can you also write down premium? Sometimes they talk about the autopack premium, so it's either autopack rate or autopack premium. So these are the four things here. Where you live, the further up north you go, the less your insurance will be. And I think you know why. Or maybe not, maybe it's not obvious, but the further up north, the less it is because it's less likely that you get into an accident, right? In the city, there's more people, more cars. So the further up north, so where you live affects your premium. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know that it gets cheaper as you move up north. Just say where you live affects your insurance. What you use your vehicle for. So are you a delivery driver, right? Do you drive, right? Is it Uber, whatever? Your vehicle. So why does it matter? Well, if it's a two-door sports car, you're going to pay more than a van, most likely. And if your vehicle is at risk to being stolen, right? They know that. They keep track of these things. You're going to pay more than somebody else. Did you know that the color of your vehicle matters too? If you have a bright red car or a yellow, it's going to be slightly more than a black car because apparently it stands out, and so it's more likely that they'll break into your car. If your car, the same car was next to it with a darker color, it is more likely that they'll break into the bright looking car. I don't know why. I didn't do the experiment, but that's a fact. Your driving record, obviously, merits, demerits, right? Merits versus demerits. Merits are good, demerits are bad. Here are more reasons, more things that can affect your premium. Your deductible. Number 6, third-party liability. And last one, loss of use coverage. If you opt in for the loss of use, your insurance is going to be up for sure. And this goes into a little bit more detail where the line is that you start paying a different rate when it comes to where you live. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna make you remember that. I just need you to know that where you live does affect your coverage. Okay, that's all I need you to know. Okay, back side. Highlighter, ready for this? Because I'm only highlighting the things you really need to know. What you use your vehicle for will obviously affect it. There are three types of insurance that you can buy. There's something called all-purpose, which most of us have. There's pleasure or leisure insurance. Watch this. Wise pleasure or leisure is not a good idea to get unless you're barely using the car. So here it is. It can only be driven to and from work and school no more than 4 days a month. So you have it going. And you can only accumulate 1,600 kilometers in a year. You don't really need to remember the exact number. What you do need to tell me is, why would you not get pleasure insurance? You can say that you can only use it a couple of days a month, and you're restricted in terms of the distance you can drive. You don't have to memorize the actual numbers, okay? Layup. Layup insurance is only, listen carefully, if you're parking your vehicle and you're not going to be driving it for a long time. So if it's on your driveway and you don't want to drive it, but you want to be insured if there's hail, fire, anything like that, vandalism, then you do layup. Layup is like, it's probably $100 a year. It depends on your car. So layup is only if you're planning on parking it. You cannot park it on the street. You cannot drive it at all. So layup is only if you're not using it. Okay. So those are the three types of insurance that you need to know, right? The three types of insurance that you can get. I would say this, most of the questions are multiple choice when it comes to insurance. Okay. Your vehicle, I'm not going to talk about that. It just goes into more detail. Your driving record. Watch this. I think this is one thing that I would like you to know. It's somewhere that if you're at fault, you lose 5 demerits. Sorry, 5 merits. I don't know. I don't know where it is. But if you are if you get into a crash and you're at fault, it's on the next page. Okay, sorry. Thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, there it is. Here, you lose 5 merits for every at-fault accident. So it takes you 5 years to build them up, and if you have one at-fault claim, you lose 5. Plus your insurance will go up, right? Because you get a discount. So you don't just lose the merits, you also lose your discount, you lose all of those things. So, and an at-fault accident is one for which you're found 50% or more responsible. So if it's 50-50, you're like, oh yeah, I wasn't completely at fault. They still see it as at fault. So it's almost like a, I don't know why they do that, but anyways. And so this is the last part here, and then I'll let you work. This is a scenario that you could come across. Suppose you're at your nearest Autopack agent. State 2 ways you can reduce your insurance premium. You can do this. Increase your deductible. So you choose, 500 instead of a $200 deductible. And you're like, what is a deductible, Mr. Dirksen? I still don't get it. Well, I'm glad you asked. Here it is. I'm coming back to this, okay? Just want you to see. This is brand new. This is just AutoPack recently made some changes to their deductibles. So these are your deductibles. It's a terrible color, but I hope you can see that. There's 200 plus, 200 standard, and there's a $300 deductible, 500 and 750. So if I chose a $300 deductible, that means that every time I make a claim, I have to pay $300 out of my pocket. They cover the rest. If you have a $500 deductible, if you're at fault, you pay $500, they pay the rest. That's what a deductible is. So the higher your deductible, the cheaper your insurance will be. You gotta pay close attention. The higher it is, the cheaper your insurance will be every year because you're less likely to make a claim if you have a high deductible. If I have a $750 deductible and if I ever end somebody, I will offer to pay for it myself because I don't want that record on my, and I would have to pay a lot anyways if I go with AutoPack, right? If you have a $200 deductible, you're more likely to make a claim because it's only $200 out of your pocket, right? So, but this is the benefit. If you have a 200 plus, collision, obviously it's 200, glass replacement 200, but watch this. If there's a theft or attempted theft, you would pay nothing. If there needs to be some glass repair, like chips or whatever, you would pay nothing. If you hit a deer, you pay nothing. So the 200 plus, you pay more on a yearly basis, but there's quite a few cases where you wouldn't be paying anything. Vandalism, right? So I have this one, you know why? Because if students don't like me, they go key my car, right? So I'm covered, right? Vandalism, I don't pay anything, right? I'm just kidding, nobody's ever done that, I hope nobody does. But vandalism it does happen, right? Depending on what area of town you're in, more than others, right? But it does happen. So the 200 plus is going to cost you more on a yearly basis, but up front when you need to make a claim, not as much. So increasing your deductible makes it cheaper though. Next is decrease. You can decrease third party and capitalizing liability. All you need to do is that basically. Just tell me if you were to decrease that amount, that up to $10 million coverage, if you bring it down to 5 million, you'd be paying less. You can opt out of loss of use coverage. Right? So if you say, no, I don't want that loss of use, I'm going to borrow my mom's car if I do get into a crash, or I'm going to bus, right? I'm going to bike. I don't know what your situation is. Then don't take it, right? And number 2 here, a 200 deductible will cost more, would result in a higher premium. Because you only pay $200 when making a claim. if you took the $500 deductible, you'd be paying more when making that claim, right? You cover more. And that is it for this